There seems to be an awful lot of sad stories in the news today, and there are thousands missing. Does anybody care? New Vallow channel, where we talk about those faces. Talking news with Debe. Cassie Barnes has still not been found, and it's been 2 years since her case first hit the spotlight. Breaking. Child Daybell and Vallow both behind bars. Sarah Galloway was found. She wasn't found alive. What happened to Sarah Galloway?
It's too heartbreaking to share.
Children are still missing. Children like Dorsey. You're in shame. You just got away with it. Welcome to Talking News. Hello everyone. My name is Debe. We use big stories to push little faces.
Hello and welcome to Chasing a Murderer Talking News. Before we get started, make sure guys that you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also hit the notification bell. Today we are going to actually do a Talking News episode, and we are going to talk about the Doomsday Mother, Lori Vallow Daybell. I'm having to do this on the go, so please be patient. Just recently, Lori Vallow was in a hearing late August of 2022. She is also known as the Doomsday Mom. It was just yesterday, Tuesday, August 16th, that her attorneys are seen asking the judge to send the case back to the grand jury because it was the indictment was just too confusing. Now remember, Lori Vallow is 49 years old. She had just married a man by the name of Chad Daybell, 52, and both facing the same charges. Not long ago, Lori Vallow was found incompetent, and during that time, we noticed that Chad Daybell's defense was actually trying to separate him from this joiner. And a lot of people have some eyebrows going up saying, what the heck is going on with that? The two pleaded not guilty to several felony charges, including conspiracy to murder, and grand theft, all connection to the 7-year-old at the time, Joshua J.J. Vallow, and 17-year-old Tylee Ryan, which are Lori Vallow's children. Tylee Ryan, 17, was her biological daughter with a man named Joseph Ryan, which she hates. We know this. J.J. Vallow being an adopted son from her previous husband, Charles Vallow's family. And I want to say, if you're not familiar with this story at all, check out my series that I have going, Life Beyond the Grave. So jumping back to yesterday's hearing, we noticed that Lori Vallow's defense team is actually kind of calling jury members dumb, in my opinion. It was held, actually the hearing was held in eastern Idaho in the town of St. Anthony. Lori Daybell's attorney said that the conspiracy charges were oddly constructed and likely to confuse a jury. And this was the reason that her lawyers asked the judge to separate her conspiracy to commit murder and conspiracy to commit theft charges. The hearing was not the only interesting thing going on. In fact, a lot of people like to watch to see Lori Vallow's reaction because it seems that each hearing, she is a different person. Last hearings, she actually wore these very bright sky blue glasses and sat there as if, she had no opinion whatsoever. But those of you who follow the case understand that Lori Vallow, she's a big fat narcissist. And, well, we're going to discuss that just shortly, actually. People noticed that she had a personality, some smiles, some smirking, and her own ideas brewing in that brain of hers yesterday. As her attorney stood up and gave his reason as to why he felt that these charges should be separated, I'm going to read it to you real quick. Quote, I have an issue with the state saying, hey, we can lump all these things into one conspiracy charge. And as long as they find one of these conspiracies, then the conspiracy is met. And this is a quote by the attorney John Thomas. Lori's face, like in one of her first hearings that we saw of Lori, kind of expressed dramatic feelings of what he was putting out in that courtroom. And you could see she felt as if it was her standing there saying these things, and her rolling her eyes, looking very disgusted by some of the things going on with this case, showed very, very strongly. Here's what one article had to say. One of the conspiracy charges was actually lodged because prosecutors say the couple planned to kill Vallow's daughter, Tylee, and steal the Social Security benefits. And the child was actually receiving this because her father had died, and that would be Joseph Ryan that we mentioned earlier. The other conspiracy charge is the same, but in connection with her son's death. 7-year-old special needs J.J. Vallow. Thomas, well, he further said, quote, the conspiracy to commit murder and the conspiracy to commit grand theft are two separate conspiracies. We believe it would be confusing to the jury to be able to figure out what elements were met, when the elements were met, and to what extent the elements are met. Meanwhile, the prosecution, Rob Wood, argued that the charges were not confusing at all. He said, quote, one is to the murder of Tylee Ryan and to steal the Social Security money that was allotted to her. And one was to kill J.J. Vallow and steal and collect the Social Security funds that were allotted to him. We believe the jury will find that there was this agreement and that they agreed to commit these two crimes, end quote. By the end of the hearing, we noticed that Judge Stephen Boyce said he would consider the arguments and make his decision later. The one thing Judge Boyce understands is that he needs to dot his I's and cross his T's. He has to be super careful in this case because he's dealing with a grand manipulator who studies the loops in the law. The last thing that the court system wants is for there to be an appeal based on a mistake by them. Not only that, there's no doubt in my mind that Lori Vallow's tactics, along with her defense attorneys, have kept anybody with legal experience on their toes. We will go over the video of this hearing shortly, but first, let's talk about Lori Vallow. And this is based off my very close and thorough study and profile of Lori Vallow Daybell, the accused Doomsday mother. We know that she and Chad Daybell are facing some serious charges. Most importantly, all accused defendants awaiting trial is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. That being said, let's get right into it. Lori Vallow Daybell recently was in court alone. Her husband Chad Daybell was not there, and this is because this particular hearing had nothing to do with Chad Daybell. Now remember guys, there was something I wanted to mention. I think I forgot to mention it earlier, is the fact that Lori was deemed incompetent for a portion of this case on this timeline, but now she is competent. So why is it that we don't have to worry about her being incompetent? I believe one of those reasons is the fact that Chad Daybell actually did try to separate his case from hers, because in this hearing yesterday she was more than alert and aware of what was going on. Something you need to know about Lori Vallow is the fact that she has game. And everything Lori is involved with, this is a game, this is a competition. It's all about winning, and winning to favor her idea and way. And she's a great master at controlling certain people. If she can't control them, then she'll use something in order to blackmail them or threaten them to do what she wants. As Lori sat in the courtroom smiling and smirking, I noticed that a lot of her reactions and actions were very familiar. And I believe that someone in that courtroom that day was watching and admiring the Johnny Depp case. She seemed to think that when the judge was questioning the prosecutor on this case, trying to understand why he had combined several charges into one, she found it quite funny and seemed to use a very odd tactic that most narcissists like to use. And that was to smile and act like her and the judge were on the same page as if they are friends. And to make it seem as that is the most ridiculous thing she's ever heard in her entire life. This same tactic was used in the courtroom of Johnny Depp. You had Amber Heard, who was using a different tactic than he was. Not taking sides, but that's what he did. Was to make people feel like he was the cool kid in the room. This is exactly what Lori was attempting to do as well. And it works for a lot of people. A lot of narcissists use this and get away with it. Let's say that there wasn't 2 charges there that they were concerned about. We just had 1 charge. Conspiracy to murder. That definitely isn't something to brag about. It definitely isn't something to be proud of. Looking at her face right here even, you can see she thinks this is the most ridiculous concept ever. She thinks she's winning when the judge is pointing out these concerns brought up by the defense. And for her, this is a big deal. This is a big win. It's kind of the same thing that happened in the Johnny Depp case. So I see a lot of her mimicking coming out in the courtroom that Tuesday, August 2022. I've already pointed out at the very beginning of this case that she is one to mimic people she admires, and she is very good at making herself look like the victim, and making people feel like they're not part of the in crowd is a big tactic for her. It's something she's used her entire life since high school, and she continues to use in her older adult phase. People who were there to wait for any sign of remorse from her, the fact that neither of her kids, JJ and Tylee, are no longer here on this earth. Well, as you can see right here, there doesn't seem to be a very small smidgen of remorse coming from this woman. I think this lack of remorse and concern will actually work to the prosecutor's benefit in the future. Now here's the thing. A lot of people are wondering, what is Lori Vallow's family thinking about this time? Janet Cox, Lori Vallow's mother, Barry Cox, her father, her sister Summer, her brother Adam, and many more. Many of her family members have been in denial, except for a couple, and that would be Adam Cox, her brother, her nephew, and possibly Colby, her son. You gotta think, we know that they're watching her right now. And they know, too, that Tylee and JJ have been found in the backyard of Chad Daybell's home. Still not laid to rest. Still sitting in a morgue awaiting for this trial to end so that they can be laid to rest finally. Knowing this and watching her smirk and smile must be very confusing and must be a reality punch to the gut. And it must be very painful to sit there and watch the mother of these 2 children sit there as if she never did anything wrong whatsoever. And it must be incredibly confusing to sit there and see a person that you've seen your entire life, that you thought to be one way, is now a cold, calculated monster. At the beginning, it must have just been pure shock for this family, thinking this is no way that she knew what she was doing. But it's very evident at this point on that she's very confident. She understands because she's listening to every word and sees that knowledge that she understands what's happening, which means she understands that these kids are no longer here. And at this point, the family must understand that she is not the person they thought she was. It must be one of the hardest times of their lives. At some point during this hearing, you can see Lori's smirking and smiling kind of drop off the face of the earth, and then suddenly she seems to be in a different world. And the fact that prosecuting attorney Rob Wood mentions the fact that the punishment for these charges could be death. People look at Lori for the reaction, and they just really see no concern whatsoever. She thinks it's ridiculous, if anything. For her, it seems her thoughts are the whole world's insane, and she's the only sane person. In this case, and people following this case, one of the major concerns is they're wondering why. Why would she do all this? Most people thinking to themselves they've never seen anyone so cold in a very long time. How is she fighting against her children versus fighting for them? Saying whether she is or isn't part of her kids' reason for no longer being here on this earth, the fact remains they're not here any longer, meaning that they're no longer in her life. As we gaze upon her sitting there smirking and smiling, knowing this fact, understanding the reality that she has not spoke to JJ nor Tylee since she's been arrested. And yes, we see this person sitting in the courtroom acting as if the whole world is wrong and she's the only right person. Her who cannot feel empathy or love for her own children is a nuisance to this world, in my opinion, because we all know a mother's number one job is to protect their children, in which she failed. Lori Vallow's mother, Janice Cox, has actually been a prime example of what a mother should do for their child that they love, whether it be in a good example or bad. She fought for her child. She fought to protect Lori. She believed and gave her daughter the benefit of the doubt when the whole world was saying no. We know that Tylee Ryan, Lori's middle child, her daughter, was used her entire life to play a victim card. We also know that Tylee Ryan loved her mother more than anything in this world. We realize that Tylee Ryan was a very intelligent child. We know she had some emotional issues, but now you know why. Tylee Ryan had to have known some of the dark things her mother was doing. And Tylee Ryan knew exactly that if you were titled a zombie, what was going to happen. A lot of people do not realize that Tylee knew some of the stuff that was going on. I truly believe that. But she continued to love her mother and support her mother the whole entire way through. We're really not hearing much from Summer, Janet, or Chad Daybell's children. Melanie Pawlowski, Melanie Gibb. And I do care to know how these people feel watching Lori sit in this courtroom facing such heinous charges, smiling and smirking. And for me, in my opinion, it just sums up who she is her entire life. And the hurt that this family faced was because of some sort of pawn or gain. She needed them to gain something for herself. Sadly, it seems that Tylee Ryan was one of her biggest pawns in her game. And it's had me go back and think about why suddenly Joseph Ryan, who made, a lot of money, wasn't making that money any longer. Because after his divorce from Lori Vallow, he fought tooth and nail not to have money, it seemed. I've speculated that it's most likely because he wasn't going to give the life to this manipulative woman who had tried to have him killed and was basically getting away with it. It seems that his suffering was easier to bear than to work for someone who tried to ruin your life. And now that I know this story pretty much inside and out, I truly believe Joseph Ryan was the only smart person Lori Vallow ever had in her life. The whole entire time that he was alive, he knew who she was, and he refused to make her life comfortable. In fact, he was becoming obsessed with making sure that he didn't make her life comfortable. And that's my opinion, guys. If you're not familiar, Lori Vallow had actually pushed very hard for Joseph Ryan to carry life insurance for Tylee. It was one of her main goals in the divorce from Joseph Ryan. I often wondered if this was just a bold move on her part to send a threat. And I wonder if we'll ever know the full truth about her and Joseph Ryan's relationship while married and divorced. Well, we're about to learn more about her persona, her character, and the way her brain works. As I mentioned before, most of us realize that she's most likely a narcissist. Power control hungry, cold, calculating, a manipulator with no remorse. She is never wrong and is always the victim. Incredible danger to anyone who is part of her life. Lori's lack of bonds, lack of love, is dynamite in her gaslit world. People like her target codependents. They often find success in controlling others, and they do this by making people feel special, as Melanie Gibb learned. They use shock, drama, awe, and guilt. They gaslight. They play hot and cold games. And some of their biggest tactics are instilling self-doubt into people surrounding them. Gaslighting. This weakens the prey. It makes you doubt yourself. And it's easy at that point for the narcissist to push your button, manipulate you, and make you submit. Much of their gaslighting techniques is by actually doing like invalidating your feelings, memories, or experiences. The main goal is to make you doubt your reality, your truth. And like I said, Melanie Gibb, close friend to Lori, can attest to this. And I really think it's important for people to understand how Lori uses this technique we call gaslighting. And in court today, you could see where she was trying to use the technique of gaslighting, because they often, even though they're caught lying about something or denying something, refusing to admit this is a lie, even when you show them proof, well, you got to be a special kind of somebody. These type of people will lie to your face, even if you are the witness that you saw this behavior or witnessed what happened. She'll say you're remembering wrong. These type of people will change the subject, refusing to listen when they're confronted about a lie or other gaslighting behavior. One of the bigger things is blame shifting in relationships, seeing that if you acted differently, they wouldn't treat you like that. And oftentimes, they tell the people around them when they get upset that you're overreacting when you call them out. I often think about the fact that there's a lot more, I think, that is hidden, people do not know, and that people are afraid to come forward and share. Maybe because they allowed her to act in this horrid manner for so long. I just hope that these people are able to get the courage to come forward and understand that they were manipulated. And I think, though we know a lot about this case, when it does finally go to trial, we're going to continue to be shocked. I was going to do a commentary on the actual hearing, but I ended up not having the time to do it because it takes a lot more time to, place these clips in certain spots and then do the audio in between while placing pictures. So I thought, well, we'll just kind of talk about how she acted in court today, a little bit about what's going on, and what we can expect in the future from her. A lot of people are wondering what's going on between Chad and Lori. Are they still together? What's going on with that? Because it's very quiet. There's even rumors going around that she's looking for a new husband. But I've researched and I've really found absolutely zero. There might be somebody that knows something out there, but it's not easy to access. I want to go ahead and close this one out here, and I want you guys to share your opinion on what you've seen in the courtroom, how you read Lori, and what you expect. And please don't forget to share one of our missing girls here that continue to go on without their case being solved. I've had so much going on lately, and I'm trying so hard to get back. There's a few videos that I have half finished. I'll try to get those going as well. There's so many things that I'm trying to cover, and I do a lot of it alone, so it's very hard. But I'm determined to do it. So, love you guys. Thanks for sticking around and being patient. Thank you so much, guys. Love you. See you soon.